Robert McCall is a meticulous and borderline OCD old man, now living alone after the death of his wife, and working as a clerk at a hardware store.
When they pay, they say, "How you doing, Jenny?"
There he gets along with his co-workers pretty well, helping a co-worker Ralphie stick to a diet and get into shape as he wants to become a security guard.
We betting on what you did before you got here.
You know, like Gladys Knight in the Pips, like this.
Oh,
Oh! Man, that's him with an afro.
Hold. Come on. You can't. Don't doubt yourself, son. Doubt kills. Get up. Come on. Who's gonna make security guard?
After work and on days off, he likes to spend time reading at a local diner. A regular customer there, Alina, also working as an escort, starts her regular small talk about the book he's reading.
You catch that fish yet?
Which then turns to her dreams of becoming a singer. He thinks she would do great, believing in his intuition about her ability. Alina carries a guilty look hearing this, as she knows she is living far below her potential. The following evening, Alina comes into the diner visibly upset. She starts talking to Robert about his book once more, but soon a limo pulls up outside and Alina's cell begins to ring. It's her pimp, a Russian thug named Slavy. The man in the limo is her client, a pig of a man, but though Alina asks to see another client, Slavy refuses and demands she get into the limo. Not wanting to upset Slavy, Alina heads out to meet the client. The following day, Robert gets to the diner to find Alina, already there looking like she had a rough night, and brings her cake. Robert gets settled into his usual spot, but this time Alina comes to join him there, and here he sees a black eye she had received but says nothing about it. After talking for a bit, Robert can't ignore it any longer, but Alina claims it was just something stupid that happened. Alina then hands him a CD containing some songs she recorded. Robert thinks she should pursue music, but she doesn't think she can change who she is in her world. She notices he doesn't wear a ring and asks about his wife and learns about her passing, and Alina notes she could always see the sadness in his eyes. His passion for books he took up after his wife died, something to always remember her by. During the conversation, Alina's phone rings multiple times, but she ignores it, finding comfort in her conversation with Robert. Afterwards, Robert walks Alina home telling her about the new book he's reading, but along the way Slavy cuts them off in a car, slapping Alina for upsetting the customer the previous night before throwing her into the car. All this time Robert keeps his cool. Thinking Robert is just another client, Slavy hands him a card telling him to call so they can give him a replacement girl. Unaware Robert isn't just some ordinary old man. He was a CIA assassin, and a very lethal one. The following night, he sees no sign of Alina. 2 nights later, he gets to the diner only to learn that Alina has been admitted in the ICU, so he rushes over to the hospital to see her. Alina is badly beaten with bruises all over her body, and Robert observes as her friend Mandy sits by her bedside. Later he notices Mandy come to get some coffee, so distraught that she burns her hand, so Robert comes to help her. He asks about Alina, reassuring a skeptical Mandy that he's just a friend. Mandy soon explains that Alina was badly beaten by Slavy, something that's constantly done to keep his girls in line. Alina had always talked about starting a new life, but Slavy threatened to eliminate her if she ever tried leaving. For the next few days, the entire situation bothers Robert, who just can't seem to let this Alina thing go, until finally he decides to act. A few nights later, Slavy arrives to his restaurant in a sweet-looking Mercedes-Benz and heads to a room above the diner where some other Russian thugs who work for him are hanging out. Without warning, Robert enters the room, strange as no one is allowed up there. He shows Slavy the card he got a few nights ago, requesting to see Alina, the girl that got beaten up, but Slavy claims to not know who she is, insulting Alina in the process, which definitely ticks Robert off seeing them laugh in his face. Still not wanting violence, Robert even offers to pay $9,800 for her freedom. Slavy pretends to be insulted with his offer,
You fucking insulted me.
but then claims to be joking. What he isn't joking about, though, is that he will take Robert's money and give him Alina just for 1 month, as he could make $9,800 off her in a week. Realizing these men are beyond reasoning, Robert decides to do things his way. With a deathly calmness, he picks up his cash, but instead of walking out the door, Robert closes it with him inside. He then identifies all the weapons inside the room, calculating every future move before setting his watch for 16 seconds. All the time he needs to take out all 4 men. What follows is a systematic and lethal dismantling of all the thugs. No wasted moves and pure brutality. The only downside, it took him 19 seconds. Slavy is left suffering from a gunshot wound to the neck, so Robert takes a seat beside him, coldly telling a dying Slavy that he should have taken the money. The following day, Robert is back at work. Ralphie reveals that he actually made wait for security guard, thanking Robert for all his help. News of the deaths of Slavy and his men soon hit the news, being reported as a rival gang attack, and not long after, a man in a suit, Teddy Renson, arrives and is taken to the crime scene. But Teddy is really a Russian crime syndicate enforcer, working for a Russian oligarch, Vladimir Pushkin, who Slavy also worked for. He meets with some corrupt cops on the syndicate's payroll, led by Officer Masters, demanding surveillance footage in a 10-mile radius and a drive to his residence. Feeling insulted, Masters pulls his gun, reminding Teddy he's a guest, but Teddy isn't fazed. He takes a seat, then calmly explains that due to Slavy's death, Mr. Pushkin's services have been disrupted. Now Masters has been taking Mr. Pushkin's money, which comes with non-negotiable conditions, so Teddy isn't here to ask permission, he's here to tell them what to do. At work, Robert learns that Ralphie quit his job, but finding this strange, Robert decides to stop by his family's restaurant, only to find Ralphie there helping his mother clean up after their restaurant was almost burnt down, so Robert decides to give them a helping hand. Teddy and Masters visit an Irish mobster, known as John, who controls the territory, wanting answers, but John makes it clear he doesn't answer to Russians. Teddy, as calm as ever, reminds John they pay him for information and protection, none of which he has provided to them. To make things worse, Teddy calls John by his hated nickname Little John.
You understand, little Johnny?
What the fuck do you think?
Realizing what's about to happen, Masters readies his gun. As Teddy attacks John, Masters takes out his two thugs. Then he watches as Teddy beats John's face in with his bare hands. After helping Ralphie clean up, Robert feels something is off and asks about the fire, but Ralphie has no idea. Masters is shocked, reminding Teddy that he's a cop, but Teddy had to send a message. Teddy meets Mandy inside his car, explaining that she has no idea who killed Slavy. He wants to talk to Alina, but Mandy claims to not know who she is. Teddy reports to Mr. Pushkin. None of the suspected criminal organizations are responsible, and from what he has uncovered, whoever killed Slavy and his men is very skilled. Pushkin doesn't care. His business must go on, and he wants this stranger found and a statement made. The following day at Ralphie's mother's restaurant, two corrupt cops working with Masters clear out the last remaining customers in order to collect protection money from her, taunting that there could be another fire if she refuses. As they leave out back, they encounter Robert, but think nothing of him until Robert calls one of their numbers, calling them corrupt cops. When they come out to confront him, Robert shows them video of them threatening another business owner. The cops pull guns on Robert, but he calmly urges them to return the money they just took. They ignore him, then threaten to eliminate him, so Robert swiftly takes them both down, threatening to release the video unless they return the cash. The next day the cops do just that, and Ralphie soon returns to working at the store. Teddy finds out that Mandy lied to him and has now come to give her the opportunity to come clean. Scared, Mandy tells him about seeing Alina in the hospital, then the nice man she met but didn't get his name. Mandy swears she is telling the truth, so Teddy gives her a cup of water before strangling her to death.
Please, please.
At a company baseball match, Ralphie shows up there in his security guard uniform, quite proud of himself, and Robert looks on proudly. Teddy soon identifies Robert on security camera entering the restaurant. The next day at work, Robert goes to talk with a cashier, Jenny, about work, only to realize that she is being robbed by a thug with a gun. He demands the cash, so with a smile Robert hands it over. The thug then demands Jenny's ring, which belonged to her mother, but the robber doesn't care. Robert locks in. He could take out this thug in an instant, but then he notices some kids walk in, and not wanting to risk innocent lives, he has Jenny hand over the ring. The thug turns to leave and Robert follows him outside and takes note of the escape car. Jenny is left devastated, but Robert already has a plan. While the cops investigate, Robert grabs a sledgehammer from the aisle, ready to go to work. Teddy is gradually getting closer to tracking him down. The next morning when the store reopens, Jenny is shocked to see her wedding ring inside the register. Robert returns the sledgehammer, a job complete. That night Robert is inside his apartment when he senses someone approaching his apartment and stands ready. It's Teddy pretending to be a cop investigating the restaurant murders and wanting to find out why Robert was at the restaurant. Robert answers all his questions, but senses that something is off with Teddy. Teddy then shows him a picture of a lifeless Mandy asking if he knew her, and though taken back, Robert claims he doesn't. He's done playing games and demands to know how Teddy found him, but Teddy tells him it's what they do before leaving. Robert takes note of the car that picks Teddy up, and he knows that trouble has found him. While Robert starts preparing for a confrontation, Teddy has gathered intel on Robert, and while everything points to him being just an ordinary mart worker, Teddy knows he's way more and wants to know who he really is. That night Robert is reading inside the diner as usual when a man dressed like a construction worker enters and takes a seat. But as soon as they're alone, Robert asks if they're going to get started.
Is it just you, or are we waiting for someone else?
Knowing the man is an assassin, the man pulls a gun and demands that Robert come with him. Outside, Teddy and Masters are watching from a van when their view is blocked by a truck. Inside, Robert waits for the man to come close before taking him out in a second and cutting the lights to the diner. When the truck moves, Robert walks straight towards the van. Teddy refuses to act as he doesn't want any witnesses, and Robert snaps photos of them inside before taking off. Teddy sends Masters and some other cops to track Robert down and bring him in alive. One cop is hot on Robert's trail and tracks him underneath a bridge, but Robert ambushes and knocks him out before stealing his cell phone and disappearing again. They decide to target Robert at his apartment, creeping up and picking the locks. Robert is treating an injury, seemingly unconcerned, and he has good reason as he is not inside his apartment, which Teddy and the cops find empty. Robert happens to be right across the street, watching the men from cameras hidden inside the apartment. The cops find fake evidence Robert left behind indicating that he has left the country, but Teddy knows Robert is close, probably watching them right now, so he warns the cops to bring Robert in, or he will bring in people who can. Robert goes to see his old friend and former colleague Susan, showing her a picture of Teddy, wanting to know who he is. Later Robert is talking with Susan's husband Brian, who's happy seeing Robert again after he retired and his death was faked. Susan soon returns home by chopper with intel on Slavy. Here he learns that Slavy works for the oligarch Pushkin, who secretly works with the Russian Mafia. As for Teddy, his real name is Nikolai Achenko, former Spetsnaz and a very dangerous man. She then shows him two local cops, same cops who tried kidnapping Robert, now found dead while Masters hasn't been seen in days. The next morning, Susan wonders why Robert would stick his neck out for Alina, someone he hardly knew. Robert can't explain it, he just had to do something because he can. Susan knows a part of him died when his wife passed, but not the part she loved the most, and she urges him to go be who he is. Inside, Susan tells Brian Robert didn't come for help, he came for permission. Masters is hiding out at home, ignoring Teddy's calls after his colleagues were found dead. His car alarm goes off, so he grabs his gun and heads out to his garage. When he gets to the car though, Robert beats his ass, knocks him out and locks him inside his car. Robert has rigged the car to cause the exhaust fumes to flow into the car, slowly suffocating Masters. Holding a recording device, Robert demands to know everything about Pushkin, threatening to leave Masters inside the car to suffocate to his death until Masters finally decides to tell him everything.
You're gonna give me what I need.
I am a cop, you moron!
I don't have a lot of time.
The next day Masters leads Robert to one of Pushkin's massive drug labs being run by a thug named Andre. They meet Andre in a back room surrounded by mountains of cash, where Masters warns that the location has been compromised. Robert tells them he's Pushkin's new guy, but Andre seems skeptical, so Robert makes his move. He asks to see Andre's pistol, then swiftly disarms him. The other men turn their guns on Robert and Masters, but Robert is as calm as ever, threatening to take him out unless he orders his men to stand down. A while later Robert hands out cash to the workers there, thanking them on behalf of Pushkin, then has a handcuffed Masters call in the location. Robert knows Masters has an escape plan, like everybody else when they get in over their heads. Masters is reluctant at first, scared that his life will come to an end, but Robert reminds him he did it to himself and the badge. For a moment, Masters remembers that he was a good cop, so Robert urges him to do the right thing for the last time. Masters directs Robert where to find his secret stash, which turns out to be a flash drive. Later, when the cops get to the drug house, they find all the cash plus Andre and his thugs locked inside the freezer with stacks of cash. Things are unraveling for Teddy, who's inside a restaurant with one of his men. He has lost Robert, and fearing the worst from Pushkin, he ignores a phone call from him. His thug leaves to use the restroom, but soon Robert shows up and takes a seat, revealing his thug won't be returning. Robert threatens to continue dismantling Pushkin's entire network if he doesn't shut it down himself. Teddy refuses. He tells Robert he is insignificant, just a thing to be removed, but Robert in turn tells Teddy his entire life story, how he eliminated his foster parents when he was younger, calling him Nikolai. Robert explains that he gave Slavy and his men a chance to live, and he is giving the same chance to Nikolai, writing his number on a piece of paper for when he decides. Robert gets serious. He made a promise to someone he loved that he would change, but he will make an exception for Nikolai.
What do you see when you look at me?
Robert gets back to his apartment and accesses Master's flash drive, where he finds logs and accounts of Pushkin's entire operation, including moving girls. Robert then calls the FBI agent investigating the missing girls, telling him to check his email. Following this, Robert destroys 2 of Pushkin's oil tankers. Teddy finally picks up Pushkin's call. He is pissed as he is losing money by the boatload, and warns Teddy to find Robert or never to show his face again. Teddy has uncovered Robert's employment at the mart, and soon Robert gets a call from him, his life in exchange for theirs. Robert then calls Ralphie, and it turns out that Teddy and his men have taken them hostage inside the mart, and will start shooting people in 30 minutes unless Robert shows. Robert takes the bus, and Teddy is tracking him through his cell phone. When the bus comes into view, Teddy calls Robert asking if he's ready to die, but in a twist Robert is not on the bus. Teddy gives the order to eliminate a hostage, but suddenly music begins to play over the speakers. Robert has already made it inside. Now on edge, one of the mercs drags Ralphie, demanding to know where the music is coming from. Ralphie leads the man into the security room when Robert appears behind the merc for a split second before disappearing. The merc comes to check and Robert takes him out before locking him and Ralphie inside the room. Robert radios to the merc watching the hostages to come help, pretending to be one of them. The man steps out and runs into Ralphie, who distracts him for a second before Robert knocks him out, then instructs Ralphie to lead the hostages to safety. Teddy returns inside, calling Robert and telling him the hunt is on, but he has no idea what he walked into. The lights go out and doors lock behind them, and in the shadows, Robert starts laying traps. As the men start to scan the entire mart, the first merc is killed by barbed wire around the neck, Robert looking him dead in the eye as the life leaves his body. A second merc stumbles upon the body, and Robert impales him through the neck. He goes to move the body when Teddy lets off shots, hitting him in the arm, but he disappears once more. Teddy and his surviving men start scanning the entire floor, thinking they have him cornered. Meanwhile, Robert finds a hiding spot where he cauterizes his wound. Another merc he kills with a drill to the back of the head. One man comes close to Robert's hiding spot in a room of mirrors. Feeling something is off, he shoots out all the mirrors, but Robert attacks him from behind with a shard of glass. There's a struggle, and though Robert stabs him multiple times, the big man refuses to fall. The fight is a close one, but despite being injured, Robert manages to kill his attacker. He is left bloodied and weakened, and Teddy starts closing in on his location, but suddenly Ralphie shows up to help him. They start making their way to safety when Ralphie is suddenly shot in the leg as they've been spotted. They take cover as gunshots begin flying inches from them, but even through this Robert has a plan. He instructs Ralphie to get to the breaker and turn on the lights in 40 seconds, before they split up with Teddy and a merc chasing them. Teddy chases after Ralphie, while the merc hunts Robert, tracking him down into the food court. Ralphie manages to get the power on, and the merc inside the food court is hit with a massive explosion from the microwave. Ralphie finds himself cornered as Teddy bears down on him, but just before Teddy can get to him, a nail flies through his arm. It's Robert who shows up with a nail gun, taking out both Teddy's arms before he can fire, then dropping him. Teddy painfully demands to know who Robert is, but Robert responds by finishing him off and leaving him there. 3 days later in Moscow, at Pushkin's massive home, he is taking a shower when the power suddenly goes out. When he steps out, he comes face to face with Robert, holding a gun, flicking the light on and off. He makes it clear he has come to kill Pushkin, and Pushkin tries offering him cash, but the lights go dark and Robert is gone. Pushkin steps out to turn off an overflowing faucet, calling for his guards, but is electrocuted by a loose wire. Robert casually leaves. The guards Pushkin were calling for all lying dead at his feet. A few days later, Robert is getting groceries like normal when Alina shows up looking much different. She's been looking for him for days, just to thank him for everything he did for her. They part ways, and Robert continues on just another regular person. That's it for today's recap. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe for more insane movie stories. YouTube thinks you'll love the video on screen, so click to enjoy.